All right, this week's math review will focus on perimeter and area. But before we get started with the lesson today, the first thing you need to do is check your work for the appetizer. So make sure that you have the correct multiples. So you're skip counting by 6. You will use these multiples when you multiply down below. For the subtraction problem, you should have got 102. For the multiplication problem, you should have got 26,778. If you did not get those correct, you need to grab a different color to correct your work with. So our first problem, 400 minus 298. First thing I need to identify is I have more on the floor, so I absolutely have to go next door. Well, it's difficult to go next door when, again, I have a 0. So I've got to go all the way to the hundreds place. This is going to become a 3. This will become a 10. But in order to make this a 10, I've got to make this a 9. So I have to take one of those 10s and move it next door. 10 minus 8, 2, 9 minus 9, 0, 3 minus 2, 1. Okay? 4,463 times 6. The first thing I'm going to do is multiply my tens place. 6 times 3 is 18. So 8, carry my 1. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 1 more is 37. 7, carry my 3. I always want to carry my tens and move my ones down below. So I've done these two. Now I'm ready to multiply by the hundreds place. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 more is 27. Put my 7 down below, carry my 2. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 2 more is 26. 26,778. Once that is corrected, you may move on to the main course. You're going to see the setup this week is a little bit different than what it's been in the past. Excuse one of my cats here. He's decided to join us for this lesson. You are going to use the information that is at the top of the column to help you solve the problems that are down below. So at the top, on this side, on the left-hand side, everything that we do on this side is going to do with perimeter. Everything we do on this side is going to deal with area for today's work. Okay? And you'll also notice I've broken it into segments. So this first box I will do. The next box you are going to do it along with me. And the final box you are going to complete on your own. Okay? So when I'm trying to find the perimeter of a shape, I'm going to add up all the sides. Well, if you notice, this is a rectangle. If you notice that not all the sides are labeled, but up here in my formula, it tells me that 2 times L plus 2 times W equals P. Well, here's my length. Here's my width. Okay? So I could plug in the numbers and solve it with regards to the formula, or I also know that when it comes to a rectangle, that these two sides are the same length. So I know that if they're parallel, they're the same length. So those two sides would be 8, and then these two sides would be 5. So I'm going to add it up. Okay? I'm going to do 8 plus 8 plus, I know that 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay? If I add this up, I know that 10 plus 16 is 26. So the perimeter, or the distance around this shape, is 26 centimeters. Okay? And another thing that I didn't mention when we started, perimeter, I think of like a fence. So the perimeter, whenever you put a fence in your backyard or where else there may be a fence, you are always going to want the distance around. Okay, so perimeter is the outside edge. How much is around the object? Okay, for the we do, this shape is a square, and I know that because my width, or my length and my width are the same measurements. Okay, so if I look up at my square formula, I could do 4 times whatever that number is. So I could do 4 times 6, which we've been doing multiples so long that I know that 4 times 6 is 24. Excuse me. Or I could also just add up 6 4 times. So I could do 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Using my strategies, 6 plus 6 is 12. 6 plus 6 is 12. If I add those up, I get 24. So this perimeter is 24 centimeters. Okay? All right. For the final one, you're going to try this on your own. So I'm going to give you just a 30 seconds or so because it should be fairly simple. Remember, when we're solving for perimeter, we are either adding up all the sides, or once we have identified whether it's a square, a triangle, or a rectangle, we can use the formulas above. In this case, I know it's a rectangle because I have a different length than I do a width. Okay? So, hopefully, once I get this solved, you're going to see that you got the right answer. So I know this side's 4. That means this side's 4. I know this side's 3. This side's 3. Okay? So I could do 2 times 3 plus 2 times 4, or I'll just add it up. Okay? So I do 4, 4, 3, 3. I know that 4 plus 4 is 8. 3 plus 3 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. Okay? So this is 14 centimeters. Okay? So perimeter, we are adding up all the sides. It's the distance around the shape. It's the outside edge. Okay? We're moving over to the next column. The next column has to do with area. And when we are looking for area, we are looking for how much space is inside a shape. So I want to know how much space is on the inside. Okay? You're going to see at the top, I've also given you some formulas. Area, you're going to multiply the length times the width. So for a square, I multiply side by side. For a rectangle, length times width. And then a triangle, which you don't see here, is half of the base times the height. Order of operations tell me that I always do my parentheses first. Okay? So I would solve this, and then I would multiply by 1/2. Okay? This first shape, they've given me some assistance. They actually have it marked off with a grid on the inside. So in order to find the area, I can just count up the number of squares that are on the inside. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the area of this shape is 10, and they did not give me a specific unit. So they did not tell me whether it was centimeters, feet, inches. Okay? So in this case, it's 10 square something. So it's 10 square units is what I'm going to call it. Okay? For the next one, we don't have a grid, so we've got to do some math. I know from my formula up above, this is a rectangle because these two sides are not the same. So I know that I can do length times width. So I'm going to multiply the two numbers that I have. So I'm going to take 9 times 6. 9 times 6, if I count by sixes, is 36. In this case, I have feet, so I want to make sure that it's square feet. So I could write feet with a little 2, or I could also write it 36 square feet. Okay? It's very important that you have the unit, and you also identify whether it's just a regular unit as in perimeter, or it's a square unit. So that tells us whether it's perimeter or area. For our last object, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so because I think you're going to be able to quickly identify that that's a rectangle. And if it's a rectangle, we're going to go up above and we're going to use our formula for a rectangle. So I'm looking right here, rectangle, length times width. So I have one simple math problem to do. 9 times 6. Again, if I count by sixes, I know that 9 times 6 is 54. And in this case, they've said it's feet. So again, I could write 54 square feet. 54 square feet. Okay? You do not have to write both of those. Choose which one works better for you. Okay? But you do need to include the unit along with your answer. Okay? After you've completed this, you're going to move on to Math Google Classroom where there is a game that is specific to perimeter and area.